explicitly Jesus' commandment that we love one another, and that was in today's reading from John that Anthony read so well. But I came across this reading at a very awkward time a couple of weeks ago, and it struck me, it struck a chord of how do we love the people who cheat us? Because sooner or later it happens. Things come crashing down. We trust the wrong people. Our faith in humanity gets smacked. And we're fooled, and we're deceived, and there's all other words for it. Somebody once said the sheep of the flock get fleeced and the wolves run away. And so the example I had, I was reading this, preparing the message, and I was also preparing for a trip to Ontario for my niece's wedding and to see my elderly mother last week. 2 weeks ago, I guess. And uncharacteristically, of course, I left things to the last minute. Now, I know none of us should do that. It all just sort of came crashing in. So hours before scheduled departure, this was not even days, hours, I was filing a column to this electronic publication I write for, and I was sending in my Maritime Conference registration, organizing registration for the local softball league, and sending the final marks to the University of King's College, and preparing this message. And a warning flashed across the screen of my computer, and some of you may have seen this lately, that viruses were invading the computer. And they were stealing my personal information and that of anyone else on the computer. Anybody seen that lately? Oh, you so fortunate. Now I'm looking at it and say, why me? Yes. Okay. There are reasons why it happens. But they were popping up so fast I couldn't get to the files. And the system kept flickering, like it was going to give up the ghost. And the warning said that Windows would install, quote, a high-end protection system. It was much like our flim-flam man and the Sneetches. Just pay me $19.99 and it'll all go away. You know what it reminded me of later? You know the bully in high school that used to want your lunch money for not beating you up? This will all go away. The trademarks for Windows, though, were everywhere on the computer. I thought, what might be legitimate? And all my files are disappearing, and all this confidential information about students and even about the church was just, boom, going out of the computer. And so I was desperate, and I admit it. I paid $19.99 to make the problem go away. Really, I hear the groans. It was really dumb. But I was desperate to save the information. It was a huge mistake. The thing was a scam. These cyber crooks, and I have other words for them, installed a virus on the machine that shut it down. And by the time I was finished, I had to spend $150 to get the computer repaired. Cancel my credit card, and had to move all my confidential files onto a laptop. It was kind of embarrassing, kind of demeaning, kind of humiliating. So you can imagine when I pulled open the Bible and finally got back to the message, and it said, love one another. There was not a lot of love in my soul at that point. But it makes you think. I was saying the number of times, now I may be more gullible than the rest of the people, I say the number of times I've been scammed in my life, and it really depresses you. I remember a chimney repair outfit once charged me $1,000 for much needed work on my chimney, and all they did was put a thin layer of cement across the top to make it look like they repaired all the brick. The first big windstorm, all the bricks fell. And it's funny how you find this out. I'm also a sucker for a good story. If a street person spins me a yarn about how they're trying to get back to Yarmouth or Cape Breton, you've probably met these people. If it's a good story, I'll fork over a $5 or a $10 just to hear the story. But the ones that bother me is the ones that promise to pay you back. Hey, give me your business card and I'll pay you back. Ever had those? Has anybody ever had the money sent back? Please tell me. Oh, my faith in humanity remains what it was. And I was thinking, it just doesn't happen. I'm waiting if there's anybody that it happened from. Because these breaches of trust happen even within the church. There was a group, and you may have heard of them, called Jabez Financial. Anybody encountered these people? a few years ago. I think it was $10 million they raised. And the principals went to Panama, and the money hasn't been seen since. And when the Securities Commission moved in, several of the local investors objected, insisting that the people behind the scheme just needed time to get to work with God so the money would grow. The money didn't come back. And as we were preparing the speech display this morning, I was thinking, the Flim Flam man is everywhere. And he doesn't always wear funny clothes and a straw hat. But what astounds me and depresses me on a good day is the time and talent that these people put into these elaborate attempts to squeeze money out of those of us who are trusting, who believe in the goodness of human nature. I thought of those hackers that invaded my computer. This was in a charitable moment. If I spent as much time developing ways to legitimately market computer security systems as they did try to get $19.99 out of me, they could very well develop ways to enhance computer security because they know how it works, they know how to break it. They could make the system secure. And if the door-to-door tradespeople honed their skills rather than hatching schemes to do the least possible for the most gain, then they might actually benefit the people they're trying to serve. And if the street people with the tall tales I've often thought put that imagination and creativity into their daily activity, they can find ways to find meaning and hope for their lives. And the last one I came to was those who hatch wild investment schemes that play in our greed could probably succeed in securing financing for legitimate ventures. When I think of all these small businesses that struggle to find money to get off the ground, these people know how to raise money out of nothing. They just keep it. And I was pondering as to how this comes to pass, how people come to think they can get something for nothing, how people think they can dupe the rest of us, and that works. Because the Holy Spirit moves through all of us. But sometimes it gets drowned out by greed, sometimes peer pressure, sometimes by need. It comes down to societal normals. And sadly, we see too much of the get what you can and run. Just take it, because everybody's doing it. And I was thinking that reading that Anthony did from John, that how can we obey the commandment to love one another when we're surrounded by so many people who are unlovable? This has disturbed me. How do you love one another when some people seem unlovable? How can we love those who steal from us and deceive us and lie about us? And then I was listening again as Anthony read it. It's simple. He just says, love one another. And it's universal. In another place, Jesus makes it worse. He says, love your enemies. And it gets worse. Peter comes to him and says, how many times do I have to forgive my brother? No, I'm not sure what Andrew did to him. How many times? 7? Jesus said 70 times 7. How can you love them if you can't trust them? How can you love them if they've stolen your money, destroyed your trust, or injured you, or humiliated you? And then we get to the point, how far do we have to stoop to get to the level where we can actually communicate with those who indulge in these activities? And do you want to? Because it's a tough call. Now that we know the one response to all of this is, just lock your doors. Don't answer the phone. Don't use the computer. Now, I'm not sure how we would ever do that in this day and age. Get a good security system. You demand more police protection. We've all done that. We've done that even within the church. And it hurts a little bit when you think internally what we've done. There was a time when the doors of this church and all churches were open 24 hours a day. I really think we need to open up those doors back there for a couple of hours a day for 2 or 3 days of the week to let people come in, to see what we do here, to talk with us, just so we're not strangers anymore. I've often thought if St. Paul's on the Grand Parade can do it, with all that is in that church, if they can do it, surely anyone could. Because we've got to stop being strangers. You know, people don't... I was talking to a fellow, actually, it's a sad story. It was a fellow I know who used to do break-and-enters. And I was asking him, what motivates you to do this? He said, it's the thrill. It's the thrill of being able to get away with it. And he said, but you don't do it to people you know. I said, that's the key. We have to take the risks and accept that things may get stolen, that people may be abusive. But could we accept that all people are equal before God? We say it. That we live in the same creation. I thought, just like the Sneetches, we're in creation together. If we open up the doors, we're suddenly not strangers. We're suddenly not people who can be taken. We're people who are living together. And I think that's what Jesus was talking about, because remember, Jesus didn't shy away from the people that society rejected. Jesus had the greatest open-door policy in the world. He just walked out in the middle of them. Time and time again. Even though there were people out there who wanted to kill him, people who didn't want to listen to him, people told the world he was crazy. And he walked out there with the criminals. The last thing he does on the cross is he forgives the criminal. Today the thief will be with me in paradise. It's hard to work ourselves up to that moment. But he healed the outcasts, and he ate with them, and he partied with them. He spoke up on their behalf, and ultimately forgave them and all of us. And in the midst of us, from that reading in John, he called us his friends. I thought that may be the key. We're friends. The people who come in off the street to see what goes on in this church, to talk with us, would be our friends. And I thought if Jesus could be our friend, God on earth, the divinity, and promised that he would tell us everything that God had related to him, then surely we could do likewise. And everyone on this beach would be united. And I thought, what do friends do? Friends invite each other to go places together. They include each other in celebrations. They invite them in. And he goes further in that passage. He says, you didn't choose me. I appointed you. It's an interesting way to make friends. You didn't choose your friends. I appointed you to be a friend. So that's what we're called to do, to share our gifts. And one of the greatest gifts we can have is to be open to the world. To say, come on in. What I have is yours. And in a good day, we can do it. And so actually, we start tomorrow. Because tomorrow we're bringing the peoples of Margaret's house in here for a meal. We have traditionally gone out and taken the meal. We have a wonderful opportunity to bring the people in to where we live. And we get to call those people our friends. And we can break down the distrust. We can break down the fear. And you can actually live in love. And there's a lot of things that are being done within this church to do that. The wonderful outreach work that is done here. And the reaching out that's going further. In fact, in 2 weeks, we're starting a service up on Baker Drive. We're going to take what we have here and move it out into the community. Reach out. Let the world reach in. And that love will enable us to rise above please?